Welcome to the Arsenal show. We are live. I apologise for being late, 5 minutes late. It's all my fault. We had some technical issues. I've had to do some sort of gymnastics just so you can actually see me, and it's worked. So I'm happy. I'm joined by Steve K, Jerome Marks, and Melvin Marks. How is everyone doing?
Yeah, very well. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good. Jerome, you good?
All fine, thank you. Yeah,
that's good. That's good to hear.
Well, actually, we're not really, are we? We're all like nervous wrecks at the moment. Come on, we must admit it. It's like
nervous wrecks for what? No, that's you, Steve.
Mate.
You are the one with your finger on the pulse of transfers. Therefore, you are the one that's stressed. We are just living life and waiting till it happens. Do you know what I mean? But we've got plenty to discuss tonight. There's obviously the Mikel Arteta that went on in the marker. There's obviously the Declan Rice issues. Look, as you can see there, I'm not too happy about the media, but we'll discuss that in a second. And there's a few other articles and the things we're going to talk about, obviously, all around Arsenal. Everyone who's currently watching now, make sure you press that like. I will not say another word until I see 11 likes. I weren't going to hold on to that. I couldn't do that because radio silence is a no-no. But please smash that like. If you are new to the show, make sure you smash that subscribe. We've got another guest coming on in a bit. He'll be joining us a bit later. But as of now,
Mikel.
Yes. I didn't want to reveal, but you've let the cat out of the bag. Mikel Arteta will not be joining us physically, but in spirit, I'm sure he will be. First and foremost, obviously, you may have seen the interview with Marco this week with Mikel Arteta, and there's a few things based on last season that I wanted to quickly go over, which kind of, I feel, show a little bit of how he saw the season. Now that the dust has settled, he was asked. Let's go back to last season. Was fighting for the Premier League against City a feat, or was it just winning it? The feat was to win it. This is Arsenal, and the level of demand is high. To this day, it still hurts me deeply not having won the Premier League after spending 10 months fighting with City. But that's sport. That said, what has been achieved with such a young team and the youngest squad in the Premier League is worthwhile. That is clear to me. Now, we got a lot of digs at the end of the season about how Arsenal bottled it. But Steve, going off those comments, does it show that it's actually with the youngest team in the Premier League, with the fact that potentially no one even put us in the top four, that it was actually something to be maybe not necessarily proud of, but maybe impressed, maybe a good stepping stone in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, looking at it now, we can sit down, we can relax, and we can look at it, after sort of analysing it properly and taking away a bit of the emotion that we had at the time of, going on this incredible journey, if you like, and being on top of the table for 230 odd days, which we would have laughed at if anybody would have said that to us at the beginning of the season. And okay, we fell away at the end, but and then we had all the people come out and said that oh, you bottled it, you crumbled, and all that. That was just something. At the end of the day, they would have given anything to be in Arsenal shoes, and I think that's what little bit of what sort of Mikel Arteta was getting at. I'm immensely proud of them, to be honest with you. I'm absolutely, as you said, you look at the age of the side. You look at where they've come. Especially people like from what we call our own ALM boys like Martinelli and Saka. The ages of them. I put Saliba in that category as well. Young men who have literally stood up to some of the toughest oppositions in the Premier League, gone to some of the toughest grounds where people of that age would normally have folded. We've seen it in the past, but our young kids have stood up, and we've gone to these grounds and literally, without any fear whatsoever, and won games. You can take the Newcastle game for as an example, but there's so many more during the season. We've come a long way since Mikel Arteta's come, and we're very lucky to have him. And impressed definitely. I enjoyed the season, but again, I think at the end of it, being really proud to be an Arsenal fan, which I think for me is the most important. And I'm buzzing at the bits to start next season.
Melvin, do you feel like challenging City for the title was a feat, or should we be looking at it as we are Arsenal? That's nothing. We should be looking at this like it's a big deal that we challenged for the title. We should be looking at it. We didn't make it. We're Arsenal. We should be winning it.
We should use last season as a base. So right, that's where we are now, and now we got to go forward. Don't say like a Leicester City one-off and go back to mid-table like they did. This is a base we've got. As you say, we've got the younger squad. They're a year more experience, and we've got hopefully a couple of additions coming as well. Mm-hmm. So why shouldn't we go even one further? When bottled it for 250 days of the season, because where were they? So and also the football I watched, the excitement I got out of this season is I can't remember when I got that. Honestly, it was amazing. And being a football fan, a lot of it is to do with winning titles and winning cups and winning stuff. We know that. But if that was the case, the only case, then there shouldn't be a Spurs supporter left on this earth. Like that. But what I'm trying to say is, though we didn't win the league, if you could take that out of the equation, it was one of the greatest seasons I've ever been an Arsenal supporter for everything. Getting together, the football was off the radar, and I've seen more successful Arsenal teams not play football anything like this. I've never seen the crowd get together. I mean, when we first moved to the Emirates, it was a lump of concrete. Now it's got a soul, like the club has. So this season has been brilliant. We can go one better, because I say we should use this as a base, and I think we have done. Because had we said that's where we are, we did very well. Let's hope we can do again next season what we did this season. I think we go backwards 5 or 6 paces. But I think we're looking to push players. We're looking to bring more players in, better players, and make the squad bigger and better. So why not? I think it's a great base, and let's hopefully things happen in the next few weeks, and everyone everything fits together, and we go forward.
Very good point. Very good point. What's your thoughts on this, Jerome? Is it a feat to be challenging for the title with Man City at this stage, or should we be looking at like, no, we're Arsenal. We should be looking to win the league. We shouldn't be getting excited about challenging.
Yeah, I think it comes down to expectations and having realistic expectations. So in terms of where we were this time last season, the expectation would probably be to challenge for top 4. The expectation wasn't going to be to challenge for the league title, despite the fact that we're Arsenal and we think obviously we're the greatest. But really, that was what all the fans probably thought would happen. We'd probably challenge for top 4. Now you ask the fans about this season coming up, and you're going to get a different answer, aren't you? People are probably going to want to expect you to challenge for the league, because that's the standard now that we've set. And it's not so cut and dry when people say, was last season a disappointment, or was it a success, or failure or success? You don't have to just sum it up like that. You could say it was fantastic that we challenged, and obviously a bit disappointing that we didn't end up winning it. But we're in a great position now going into the next season, and I think you could tell from those quotes of Arteta how ambitious he is. Whatever we think, he has got his sights firmly on the title, and that's what he's going for.
Yeah, that's a very good point. He went on to actually say, he was asked Where did it go wrong? Many things. The 3 draws in a row that we had, West Ham and Southampton penalised us, and the misfortunes that happened. 2 comebacks going 2 up. There were 3 or 4 injuries, important players. From there, everything got complicated. When we had a full team, we were consistent. As soon as problems came in, it didn't reach us. And then our rival was the best team in the world, the best squad in the world, the best coach in the world. We had no choice but to accept it and shake hands with the competition. That sort of kind of alludes to him feeling we actually didn't have the squad. Is that the faults rather than what was going around at the end of the season, Steve, that people saying we bottled it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what people, they were saying they bottled it. It's just basically because they were supporters from other teams, and they didn't understand. They don't watch Arsenal as much as what we do, or watch them as closely as what we do. If anybody knows, what went on and why it went on, would be an Arsenal fan. And Mikel Arteta, what he's put there in his quotes, I think he's absolutely, bang on the button and spot on. And I think it's something that I've tried to champion when talking to rival fans, when they've started to try and slag us off, put us down, saying, oh, this was the reason why you did this. This was the reason why you crumbled. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. What Mikel Arteta has just said there is exactly what I've said to them. So, which pleases me. He's absolutely right. We came up against, I think we played against Liverpool, Southampton and West Ham, where you could say okay, if you take away the Man City game, you could say we lost the title there. But, if you analyse those games, Liverpool, we were fantastic in the first half, but, unlucky, I felt at Anfield. And, against Southampton, it was something, a freak of nature, if you like, something that don't normally happen. Ramsdale making a mistake, throwing it out to a player. That was the reason why we didn't get another 2 points there. Silly penalty given away at West Ham. We played well in all these games, but you do have to look as well as the injuries. And Saliba was a massive loss. There's no shadow of that. But when you put all those things into one, and you think, well, he's obviously did that, and he's now come to a conclusion why we never win the title. And I think he's actually spot on. So when you go into next season and you look at, okay, now we have to not do those things. When we get into front, we have to be stronger. We have to manage the game better. We have to not make them silly mistakes. We may have to bring in a couple of players. He knows that the players are older. They'll be more intelligent. They'll be stronger of mind when they know that they won't want those things to happen again. And this squad, I know they won't allow it to happen again, because they have learned all over the last 3 seasons that we've seen them at the club, and they've just got better and better and better and stronger. And I'm expecting Arsenal next season to absolutely be on fire with a couple of additions. So yeah, he's words there, are good to hear, because it just seems he's got the bit between the teeth for next season.
Melvin, do you feel like in those quotes, Arteta recognises that the squad didn't have enough depth, and is why maybe at the end of the season he was still hurting because he's got high expectations, but it was more like a massive disappointment, gutted. It may have felt like he'd a missed opportunity, but when he looks back on it, it was we didn't quite have the squad there to compete with Manchester City.
No, I think what he's really upset about is we were so near yet so far. I mean, luck does play a part. However good Man City were, you do need a bit of luck. And the sliding door moments in the season, obviously Saliba was one, but Man City were getting beat 1-0 at home to Liverpool. And Grealish made a fantastic... He's never been in his own half before, Grealish.
Oh, that run all the way back to the other half.
Yeah,
that
would have made it 2-0.
Yeah,
and that may not have dampened their response. But when you get your best defender injured, when you're actually playing on a low tank, which we were, and we knew we couldn't afford to lose to waste any more petrol. And we were wasting petrol all the way through the last few weeks. And you just could feel it. Even at the stage, you could feel it just wasn't right. And even going 1-0 down at home to Southampton, yes, their heads were down after the first minute. But first minute? Come on, you got 90, 89, 90, probably 98 minutes to get it back. And you could tell the energy had sapped.
Yeah.
Something had happened. And the first, I never thought we'd win it going through. I wouldn't allow myself to believe that we were going to win it. But the only time I thought we could win it now is when Jesus scored that second goal against Liverpool. I thought, now I'm a believer. I thought this could happen now, and it never happened. And that was the top of the point. That was the top for me. And after that, it just went downhill with obviously the West Ham game, Liverpool's second half, and everything, and Southampton. So it's very, very disappointing. But he's no fool, Arteta. He knows where we failed. He's probably watched every game, the last 10 games, about 20 times again, probably, because it seems that type of guy he is. He's very good on detail, and he knows where we lacked. He knows the players that were injured. He knows the players that just couldn't give any more. And he realised that the ones that were coming in to replace them weren't up to it. And when you've got say 9 players and two people that are not normally in it, and the 9 people you've got are not playing at 100% because they're slightly injured, they've run out a bit of steam, and you've got 2 guys that are not quite good enough for normally playing all season, you're going to run into trouble, and that's what happened to us.
Yeah. Jerome, we've seen that players like De Bruyne has played about 8-9 games less than Saka, and they played about 15 more games than us throughout the season. Mikel Arteta's alluding what it looks like there's that we didn't have the squad. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think that shows with the players that we've been linked with this transfer window so far. I mean, I think he knows now that we can't really afford to have what you would call, I guess, stopgap signings or players that can do a job. All the signings we're linked with now, they're players that you could make a very good argument that they should start instead of like the current incumbent of the shirt sort of thing. So with Havertz, like you could have an argument who's he gonna, who you'd be happy with him playing, starting instead of someone else. Whereas in the past we haven't signed those sorts of players. So I think he realises that now's the time to buy players that you are happy with to go into your starting 11, and hopefully that will bear fruit in the coming season, and we'll see the difference.
Yeah, I think we can look at players like Kai Havertz and look at those sorts of signings as to levelling up the squad and bringing up the sort of rotation players and whatnot. I will get to more of your questions in the comment sections. Keep them coming in. We are joined by Con Marble Halls. How you doing, Con? Good to have you back.
Hello, boys. How are you doing?
Hi.
Good. We are good. We're just going over Mikel Arteta's interview in Marca. I'll hit you with the next one. When he was asked, did you see yourself winning the Premier League at some point? In many moments, the team gave me arguments, and we had the condition with people. It was believed in it. But when we started to have injuries, I felt it was going to cost us. The level of demand could not be maintained. If we want to win the Premier League against City, you have to get to mid-April. You have to get to April, May with all your players available and at their best. And we, due to injuries, did not get that. This is why we're bringing in the likes of Kai Havertz. We're looking at Julian Timber. We're looking at Declan Rice. Mikel Arteta clearly has identified that you need to make sure you've got a squad that is like Man City's in terms of the benches could be starters and the first team starters. With the signings that we're looking at now, do you think that is enough to potentially challenge the title against Man City next season?
I think if we actually get them all, then definitely it's a boost on last season. I mean, I know a lot of people were a bit umming and ahhing about Havertz, but for me personally, before he went to Chelsea, when Chelsea signed him, I thought to myself, I wish when Arsenal going to be like that, signing the best young players again. Like, it's been years since we signed him. Obviously, he's gone to Chelsea. He hasn't set the world on fire. But there is a player in there, and I think that he's only going to complement the other players around him. It's less of a drop-off. That's the way I look at it. If someone comes out, or it's weird to sort of pinpoint where, for example, just him personally is going to play, because he's played everywhere. And with Arteta, who knows where he's going to play him? But he's only going to add to what we've got at the minute. And Timber, for example, I think that could be the best signing out of them all, to be honest. He looks such a quality player, still so young, already a Dutch international, played in the Champions League already. And if we can get Rice over the line and maybe a couple more, then definitely I don't see why we can't do what we've done this season, and if not, go one better. But it all depends. Obviously, City last year, they won it all, and are they going to have that hunger again to go and do it again? Or are their players? It looks like they're losing a few players themselves, so they're going to have some new players who come in and are going to take time to bed in as well. So, and I look around at other clubs. Let's say, for example, Chelsea. They don't look like they're doing a lot. To me, Liverpool, they ain't done a lot in the window yet. Spurs, they don't look like they're going to do much. United, same again. So we're the only team. We look active this window. We look like that. We know what we want. We're adding rather than getting rid of. Obviously, the rumours of Partey going ain't the best, but I mean, I can't see why we can't go again with the players another year older and then adding these quality players around them. I can't see a reason why we can't go again.
100%. Steve, Con makes a good point there. There's a lot of talk last season about Chelsea going to be back, Liverpool are going to be there, Man United are going to be stronger, Tottenham are going to have a new manager. These are all assumptions. Are you seeing any of them that will automatically be back in contention like they were previously? Or is people just jumping the gun there?
No, I think it's good, especially with teams like Chelsea and Tottenham. I think they're a long way from getting Champions League football, as far as I can see at the minute. There's a lot of work to be done at those football clubs, and there's only 4 Champions League places, so you're still going to get some very big clubs struggle next season. As far as their expectations, are going to be. Liverpool, I think, are a team that I think they'll be a lot better next year. I think there'll be someone who probably will be pushing up there for Champions League places, maybe even above Newcastle, Tottenham, West Ham, Chelsea. I think they're going to be a lot better. Look, and another one thing we've got to remember: it's still very, very early in the window, and fair enough. There's teams that don't look like they're doing much. We see Tottenham, Maddison. I don't rate Maddison at all. I never have rated Maddison at all. I didn't want him at Arsenal when we was linked with him. I think Newcastle were going to have a right result not buying him, and I was quite laughing when Tottenham were pushing him to sign him, and I thought he's a typical Tottenham player, someone who just will play when he fancies it, and so I don't think he's going to do much there if the signing goes through. Manchester United, look, they're in turmoil at the moment regarding they can't seem to buy anybody at the minute because of the takeover. None of these clubs are in a great position, and Con did make a good point, and it was a point that I was wanting to bring up tonight as well. Everybody keeps going on, especially with the Declan Rice thing, on how we should choose Manchester City. Why is he choosing Arsenal? As far as I can see, Manchester City, if I'm Declan Rice, you should be choosing Arsenal. Because Manchester City, from what I can see at the moment regarding Manchester City for next season, is the fact that it looks like Cole Walker's on his bike. Gundogan's gone. Silva just can't wait to get out the door. Mahrez, his best days are behind him, and he looks like he could be leaving to Saudi Arabia. Jack Grealish, great season. I'm a massive fan. Are we going to get another season out the way Jack Grealish was this season, which is one of the best players in the Premier League? If I'm Declan Rice, I'm looking at maybe Man City not being favourites for the title next year, because if you look at someone like Arsenal and you look at the players that they've got, and you look at the age of them players and the growth of them players, I'm choosing Arsenal all day long for me. Because
no bias there, Steve.
no bias at all. No bias. No bias at all. Especially when it comes to this argument of Arsenal, Man City. I think Man City could. I think people are just going on about Man City a little bit too much. You know, De Bruyne coming up to 30. I think he's 31 next season. That's got to be another thing you've got to look at. I think they're in a place where now they're having to even transition a little bit. You know, with players coming to the end of their careers and leaving. So it was a great point regarding Man City. It's one that I wanted to bring up tonight as well. So yeah, I'm excited, like I've already said, and yeah, I think Arsenal are going to push very hard next season.
All right, Jerome, do you think it's a good time? Look, we saw Manchester United's treble. Is it written in the stars that Arsenal, the following season, could potentially really push for the league and win it? We saw Man United do the treble. Following season, Arsenal won. That Man City win the treble. Arsenal in and about it. Is this the season? You're getting me hyped up, you lot. Don't do this to me.
I don't know. I'm not as reliant on the stars as other people might be, to be honest. And I like how Steve's properly written off Man City after.
You've gassed me up too much there, Steve.
I
need to calm down.
But those are facts. Those are facts that they've got Man City got to deal with.
Yeah. I tell you one good thing, actually. I think it's De Bruyne's birthday tomorrow. He's going to be 32 tomorrow, so that's an extra year.
Well, there you go. There you go, 32.
There you go. Get out the Zimmer frame, boy.
But yeah, like I said before, like this is the best position we've been in for ages to attract and buy anyone. And as I said again, like even if we just did zero this transfer window, we'd still have a very good team. Yeah, granted, maybe after the first 12, 13 players, we'd be in a bit of a mess, but we're going to address that. And so, yeah, I've full faith in the manager that he knows what he's doing, and I'm sure we'll give him a good run for their money again next season.
All right. Melvin's going to bring us back down to earth. Is it written in the stars, Melvin?
No, I don't believe in the stars either. But I don't think, and I think by December, I think City will be safe from going down. I really do.
All right. On that note, we need to talk about this one. Manchester City put in a bid for Declan Rice of 80 million plus 10 million in add-ons. Last week, Arsenal put in a bid of 75 million and 15 million in add-ons. By my maths, they're the same amount. Yeah. Arsenal's bid was called embarrassing. Manchester City's bid was described as gazumping Arsenal. Now, Steve, am I losing the plot, or are the media taking swipes at Arsenal? Because I know we get called like we feel like we're victims, but it's in black and white. What's the difference? I know the structure's different. Man City can pay more up front, but that's Man City. There's not many clubs in the Premier League that can fork out 80 million up front. What are they taking a swipe at us? Am I losing the plot?
No, of course they are. We should be used to it now by now, though, Kieran, shouldn't we? You know, we're Arsenal fans, and no matter what we do, you know, some team can, you know, replicate what we do or do even worse than what we do. But for some reason, that team can get praised. You know, we go to Anfield and draw 2-2. Manchester United get their arses whipped 7-0, and apparently we're butlers, you know, and things like this. And we can bring up so many different things like that. But you're right with what you said. It's the same amount of money, apart from the fact that, you know, that you can probably guarantee that Manchester City can pay it over a shorter period of time. Arsenal are, you know, notorious at paying things over like 30 years.
Don't do that, Steve. Don't do that.
Well, it's true. I mean, like, well, 5, 6 years maybe. They do like a bit of like the old Littlewoods catalogue job, don't they? 5 few quid a week. But and that's something that Arsenal have got to get out of, to be fair, because we're at a time now where you do have to whack money down, especially now, because and at this particular transfer window, because there's certain players now that are available now that could launch Arsenal into like a different stratosphere for the next 6-7 years. And if we're just going to bring up the Declan Rice situation for a minute, for me, that is, he is this is the most important signing, I feel, in Arsenal's history since probably Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp was bought. We was like, wow, oh my God. And he took us into a new sort of stratosphere, an era of Arsenal. We thought that might have been with Ozil when we was all, oh my God, Ozil. Don't get me wrong. We've bought players in the past that have maybe turned into like world-class players. But you had Bergkamp, Ozil, and I think Declan Rice is this one that if we can get him, it could just make us as a football club for the next 5, 6, 7 years and take us into sort of a glut of winning trophies. But I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just, we're Arsenal fans and people just like to have a go at us. There's no real difference in it's all going to be about the third bid. This third bid is massively important. I got a funny feeling what they need to do now is get this third bid in, right, and make sure that Man City just don't come in with a second bid, and and they accept that third bid and don't do anything silly. Please don't come in with a 90 million plus 5 or something like that. I'll absolutely throw my iPad out the window or something like that if they did that. Just pay the money. We can't afford to lose this player. And if we do, if we think this, this sort of stick that we're getting from fans and critics and people on radios is bad now, if we don't get him, we're just going to get absolutely slaughtered. So please just get this done.
Con, Declan Rice, it's a lot of money. Do you think it's worth it?
A player's only worth what another club's willing to pay at the end of the day. Is he worth 100 million? No. But it's how much he's worth to Arsenal. And I mean, for a few years now, Arteta's missed out on his number one targets. And I feel like we've got to get one of these over the line. And I think he's the sort of player who can really, like, echo what Steve said. I think he's one of them sort of, especially with the whole Man City coming in as well. If Arsenal can get him over the line, what does that show to other players that, look, do you know what I mean? One of the biggest talents in England has turned down the treble winners for us because he can see what we're trying to do. And listen, there's a lot more to it than that. I don't think he would just turn City down to come to us purely for a project. Obviously, it's well known that he wants to stay in London. All his family live really close to him. He's actually from my area, so I know his brothers really well, and they all live really close to each other still. And where he actually lives now is closer to get to Arsenal's training ground than it is to get to West Ham's training ground. So if anything, he's closer to stay where he is now. But obviously, it's down to Arsenal to agree a fee with West Ham. And I'm guessing if we don't do that, then, I mean, he's not going to turn down City. So, I mean, City have come in. I mean, it was quite interesting to see their bid, to be honest, because everyone was saying that they was going to come in and blow Arsenal out of the water. All they've done is do the same thing, but just dressed it up a little bit differently.
So do you see anything embarrassing about Arsenal's bid against City's bid?
Aaron, you know that it's Arsenal are just easy to look. A lot of journalists are paid by clicks, aren't they? So they write articles and they get paid a certain amount of money per click. So when you go on these articles, they're full of adverts. So if you look, whenever Arsenal are involved in some sort of deal, there's a lot of like updates that are just saying the same thing over and over again. And they know that Arsenal fans are going to click them. And the same thing goes for if an Arsenal put in a bid, everyone jumps on it because it's like TalkSport. They're on it constantly. Arsenal this, Arsenal that. Because at the end of the day, they're driven by people calling up to speak and to discuss what's going on. So where our fan base is so easy to rattle,
Yes.
they chuck a lot of shit out there, and I think a lot of people bite at it. So
Yeah.
I think, listen, when deals are this expensive, when there's so much money involved, there's so much that there's no club apart from maybe these sort of nation state run clubs like Newcastle, PSG, Man City. They're the only teams who could front up that sort of money in 2 payments. Every other club in the whole of the world can't do it. It's impossible. So everyone gets on Arsenal saying installments this, installments that. Every club does it. It's easy for Arsenal to be painted in a certain light so that they get clicks and everyone looks at it. So going back to your original question, is he worth it? I mean, if he was from Italy, he wouldn't be going for £100 million, but it's what he brings to Arsenal. I mean, he's what Arteta wants. So if he wants him and he's that important, then he's worth that to Arsenal. So hopefully we get it over the line. Fingers crossed.
Good points there, Con. Jerome, back to Steve's point about this being a big statement signing. It could be the difference for years to come. Is that worth 100 million to you?
It's so hard to say. Like, I guess you got England's basically starting central midfielder. When you consider his age, what he's done, how many games he's played, the fact that he's been West Ham's main man, he's going to command like a silly figure, like any English centre midfielder back in the day, like Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard. If they would have moved at this sort of point in their career, they would have commanded like a similar fee in terms like relating to that sort of period of time. If he comes for this money, like I think he's under. Like, he better be bloody good for coming in on that sort of fee. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we've seen a lot of the times when players go for ridiculous amounts of money, they don't always tend to work out. But Rice coming into us at that sort of money, like Arteta's got to be so confident in him. Like, he's obviously the one driving this deal. Arteta, he obviously really wants him. So, but yeah, look, let's face it, it's silly money. But West Ham can do it, and they got like 2 clubs fighting over him as well. So it's not as if it's just one club. Like, there's a bidding war now. From West Ham's point of view, it's perfect, really.
Yeah, 100%. Melvin, so to all them people that said that Manchester City would come in and blow Arsenal out of the water, they've only come in and kind of matched it, but then just given a better structure.
But yeah, what people haven't realised, Kieran, they're both approximately 90 million. But what City have promised them, and it hasn't come out in the press yet, they're not paying them in cash. They're paying them in barrels of oil. And West Ham reckons the price of oil is going to go up in the next 12 months. And that could be the deciding factor that I'm worried about.
It's like buying Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, but look.
Some pie and mash as well.
Nothing. And it's a very big word, isn't it? Mm-hmm. If he is the difference between us getting to the top spot next season, and perhaps for a season or two, might have another chance in like 2 or 3 years, winning it 2 or 3 times the next 5-6 years, then he's worth every penny. Yeah. But like Jerome says, nothing is guaranteed. He's under when he plays for West Ham, he's under no pressure at all. The only pressure he's under is his own pressure he puts himself under, because he never had a price tag. He's never played with a price tag before. Some player, he might be good enough. He might go, you know what, I don't care. I never paid the money. I'm doing my job. That might be good enough. But there are a few question marks. Yes, could we have it? Would I like him in the team? Yeah, of course I would. Do I want us to stop buying 3 other players to buy him? Perhaps not. What I hope the club is doing, though, Kieran, I hope we're actually got in a plan B, because you never know that Man City might go, you know what, we actually do want him. sod that. We ain't messing around. 125, 150, which they could do, we'll have him. So we've got no control over that.
Mm-hmm.
If West Ham would have said to us, give us 100 and we take him off the market like you're buying a house, fine. But buying players doesn't always work like that. And why would West Ham accept anything we say when you've got West Ham, when you've got Man City behind you, you know, with bucket loads? I mean, funnily enough, I went out for an Indian the other night with my missus on Sunday, and guess what I had 2 portions of?
Rice.
No, onion barging. Anyway, so anyway, that's my point on that.
But you know what? To be fair, Q, just one thing. You talk about 100 million, but it's the going rate now. If you look at some of the players, if you look at things like Anthony, Sancho, Mudryk, Enzo Fernandez, some of the players that Liverpool have bought, some of the players that are going.
Yeah.
And 100 million, I mean, if Anthony's worth 89 and Mudryk's worth 88 and Sancho's worth 70 odd.
They're not worth.
No, they're not. But surely, but the thing is, they've made those clubs have now, you know, put down the president, right, of this is what we're paying. So clubs like West Ham, who are never going to get another 100 million pound player ever again in their lives, they're going to want 100 million, aren't they? 120 million. So, and I think have got every right to ask for that. But I think 100 million roundabout for a top world class, well, just underneath world class, however you want to, you know, whether you think he's world class or not. I think that's the going rate. Enzo Fernandez, 120 million euro. Come on,
that's
it's
Chelsea
crazy.
though.
It's crazy.
Can't talk about Chelsea. Chelsea just shut their eyes and push a button.
But other clubs are going to turn around and say, well, if Bellingham's worth this and so and so's worth that, Declan Rice, you've got to give
He's not as good as Bellingham, and that's what I'd be looking at. And that's the thing there. Like, I think it's.
Sorry.
Go on. No, I think it's more of a case of if you look out there and you look at the level of central midfielder that fits that profile, can play as a 6 and an 8, how many of them are out there that are going to raise the level of your squad? We're talking about Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, Barella. And then after that, you're talking about some veteran players, and Arsenal aren't bringing in that. They don't fit the profile of age. So that's the reason why West Ham can ask for 100 million. The thing that I'm quite surprised about is that Man City are willing to pay around that for a replacement for Gundogan, a player who, yes, he was a regular-ish here and there, rotation player, squad player, but is he Gundogan? Is he a Gundogan type player? I don't know.
No,
what's your thoughts on that, Con? Was you surprised that Man City were coming in for Declan Rice to replace him with Gundogan?
I mean, he's a top player, and if the top player is available, City are a top club, and they're going to be sniffing about whoever it is. That's how big clubs, massive clubs work. If a top player comes in, they'll take him and just add him to the squad of the rest of the top players they've got. Maybe they could be looking at it. They could see us as a bit of a problem now, and they think we could do with him, but we ain't desperate for him. But if we can throw some money in and stop Arsenal getting him, maybe they're looking at us that way. You never know. Like, there's so many moving parts to it. One thing I would say with City though is I don't think when it comes to the transfer markets, I don't think they're mugs really. You never really see them get ripped off for players. The only reason they paid that much money for Grealish was because Villa adamantly said they're not selling him, and he had a release clause and they had to pay it to get him. But if you look at all their other signings, they don't really spend much more than £60 million. I mean,
no, they have a bar.
Rodri was 60. Like for instance, Cucurella, they really wanted him, and Brighton started taking the mickey, and they just said, "Nah, he ain't worth it." So I know, obviously, City have got the money to spend, but they're not the sort of club to just go, "He's only worth 80 million to us. You want 120? We're not going to pay it." So that's my holding factor on it with the Arsenal thing, is that I think if Arsenal really want him, I think it just comes down to Arsenal. If they can agree with West Ham, I think we'll sign him.
Yeah.
But I think what the problem is with West Ham is, and I think West Ham as well, they'll want this to come to an end reasonably soon because, all right, they've got what they wanted. They've got a couple of clubs interested. but they don't want their business plastered everywhere so everyone knows how much they've got, and they've still got to go out and use that money to spend on other players. And like David Moyes, I'm sure will want to get these players in so that he can integrate them, so that come whenever their pre-season starts, he's got them players in. He won't want this dragging out forever either. So I think that it's got to a point now where I think Arsenal, their next bid, I think the reason it probably hasn't gone in yet is because they're talking with West Ham, because they want it to be something that's acceptable, so something that they can say, look, this is how much we think that this player's worth. This is what we're going to offer, and where do we go from here? And if that doesn't get done, then I think Arsenal might potentially walk away, because they don't want to be held to ransom either.
Yeah, I
think we're in trouble if we do, though. What do we do? What do we do? Partey is 30 odd, and he sounds like he wants to leave. Xhaka looks like he's on his way. I think this has to get done.
Jerome, what do Arsenal do here? We've got Manchester City only slightly an improved offer on the structure. They're obviously looking at it like we don't want to rush in there and throw silly money at it. They're trying to play the game and negotiate and do what anyone else would do. Is it for Arsenal to sort of slow down a bit, wait, put in like Con says, negotiate again, put in the offer that's going to get accepted, or is it time to start thinking, do you know what, let's look at plan B?
Tough one, isn't it? Really tough one. Honestly, don't know, to be honest. I think if they really want Rice, I think they will get him, because I don't think they can afford to be in a situation where they're looking at other players. You've got the Caicedo, which seems like he's going to Chelsea, but I think they're gonna have to pay over the odds, and they're gonna have to get it done. And a part of that is because the alternative doesn't bear thinking about, because they'll be like they've done for a while. And what I think they've done, I think when they bought Jorginho, is a bit kicking the can down the road with the midfield. We'll sort it out later. I don't want them to do that again, where they sign someone for like a couple of years just to like keep things ticking over. Like that's not good enough anymore. So I think they'll overpay, and I think they'll get it done. But I do, when you see the reports about Man City coming, you do get a little bit nervous, but
a bit shaky.
Yeah. I think it'll get done.
All right, Melvin. How would you play this? You see the Man City come with their next offer. It wasn't too far off of ours. Is it just time to slow?
Nope.
Oh.
Dad, what you were going to say something just before?
Yeah, I've forgotten now.
Don't ask me that. Make West Ham sweat a little bit, or
you made us sweat then.
I don't think, Kieran, we're in a position to make West Ham sweat. I think the way we'd have to play it, I mean, what I was going to say is hopefully we have got a plan B. We're looking at another player that may not be as good, but up to that stand, nearly up to that standard. But we can't make West Ham sweat. They hold all the cards. What I would do if I was negotiating, I wouldn't put a bid in and put the phone down and wait for the phone back to say yes or no. I'd have a big conversation with them. Right, this is it. What do you actually want? So we can do the deal. And if they might turn around and go, well, we want to see what Man City are giving first, then you know you're struggling. If they say a price, whether it's 100, 110, 120, then you've got something to think about. Then the ball's in your court. At the moment, the ball's not in our court, and you should turn it so that the ball becomes in Arsenal's court. So I think they might be having that conversation. We don't know. That's why perhaps another bid hasn't gone in. There's no point keep bidding against yourself.
Yeah.
There's no point at all. And why should we make the next bid? West Ham have turned down 2 bids from 2 separate clubs. Why should we be the next one? So they're just, we should play it differently and have a 1-to-1. I mean, we've done lots of deals with West Ham with players going to West Ham. I think we've only bought one from West Ham in the 1903 or something. But,
Oh God.
but we should, hopefully there's a little bit of relationship there, and I'm sure that they would want to buy players off us in the future, and not so much vice versa, because we've, as I say, historically we've only bought one, but you know, there's must have been times where they probably have wanted to buy a player and we've actually done the deal. So I don't expect them to take a cut price for Rice. Obviously not, top talent. But if they squeeze us in the wrong place, below our midriff, I think that won't go very well in the future. And I think West Ham know that as well, unless they're stupid.
Yeah,
so I think we should have if we should have a conversation with them. What do you want? Just tell us what you want, and we decide whether we do it and say what happens from there.
Yeah, I think now that the money's actually gone in and formal bids have gone in, the talk that we had before about them wanting 100 million, I think they do need to get a bit real with it. I do understand there's West Ham fans that are saying he's worth it. He will just stay. He may even sign an extension on his contract. Like, come on, get real. He's still on the same money he was on 6 years ago. What activating an extra year on his contract so he's on the same money as he was 6 years ago is not going to keep him happy at the club. I don't know how. You've got to think of it from the player side as well. He wants to move. He's being respectful. So I think you've got to actually start negotiating something, because the last thing you want is Declan Rice still at the club at the end of the season. Kai Havertz in an Arsenal kit. Jurriën Timber potentially on his way, edging closer. But two things that have come out of those bits of transfer news is the conversations that those players, and even Declan Rice, the conversations that those players have had with Mikel Arteta. Steve, there's clearly something about Mikel Arteta's spiel, his phone calls, that is drawing these big players to Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, we see we've heard him talk many a time, haven't we, Mikel? And you know, as you said, he just draws people in. You know, his speech at the last game of the season at the Emirates was, you know, Melvin and I think Jerome and Con probably was there. You know, apparently that was absolutely, you know, incredible when he got a chance to speak. You know, it was unreal. It just showed the love of what Arsenal got for the man, and I think that just goes in. He shows that to the players. You know, he comes across. He's still a very young man, but he comes across as one of them people who's a bit of a father figure. He listens. He knows, you know, what to say at the right times. He's just an all-round good guy, isn't he, Mikel Arteta? And you know, I mean, we should know this going back from his City days. You know, so many City players have lauded him, you know, on how he's how he's made them better. De Bruyne's and, you know, Cancelo's. They've, you know, even Jesus at the time and Zinchenko. They all say they wouldn't even be the players they was today if it wasn't for him, and you know, the way he sort of developed their game. And you know, he's obviously spoken to people like Kai Havertz, who I agree with Con. You know, I think he's a great signing. I think he'd be a brilliant signing. He's obviously gone to him, told him what he wants to hear. You know, put a smile on his face. It obviously didn't take long for him to turn around and sign. Jurriën Timber, you know, the same. You know, United were pushing last season, weren't they? Ten Hag, you know, come to my club. But you know, I mean, Eric Ten Hag, I mean, he's only got about 2 words, and you know, I fall asleep. So Timber was probably glad to get away. Oh my God,
No, there was a lot. Sorry, there was a lot of talk last year about Timber and linking up with Ten Hag, and then it came out not soon after that their relationship wasn't even that great.
Great, yeah, and then talks collapsed.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, that was funny last week. It's not funny twice, is it? When you say like Timber's talks collapsed. But no, I mean we're lucky to have him, aren't we? I mean, with all the signings, and we're getting it with the Declan Rice thing, aren't we? We're getting it with Declan Rice. You know, we do keep hearing that he wants Arsenal. He doesn't want to go to City. But obviously they have to pay. He's obviously got this relationship with West Ham that he wants to leave them in a good place. So he's left it in their hands. So if City pay the money, he will go to City because of his love for West Ham. But no, Mikel Arteta, fantastic. Someone who I've stuck by with from day one. I've never been in the camp when we was finishing 8th, you know, of that he wasn't the right man. Always thought he was the right man. Always thought he was the right person to, you know, to bring our players through and to push us through to title and trophies. And he's proved to be right. So, yeah, great man, great manager.
Con, what do you think that resonates with the players when they get the phone call from Mikel Arteta? Because it always seems to be good news afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of them people. When he speaks, he talks a good game, don't he? I remember when he first joined and he spoke, and I thought, oh, he's really got me on side. And he's never been a manager before. I don't know if it was because obviously we've grown up. Well, I've been at the ground watching him play not too long before that, and I thought, oh, he's one of us. And I just feel like the way he talks, like you can buy in. He's very passionate about what he says. I feel like someone like Mourinho was quite similar to that. I feel like when he spoke, he was so passionate that no matter what he said, you believed what he said, whether it was a load of bollocks or not. You just naturally just brought into it. And I feel like Arteta's similarly, he's got that similar style. And I think when he got rid of all those big names at the club, I think that really helped him because it showed that he wasn't just all mouth. He had action and he had a bit of clout in the boardroom for them to back what he's saying. And I think you look at all these young players we've got now, everyone's buying into what he says and everyone's working for him. And I think if you, as an outsider looking at Arsenal, I mean, Arsenal, we're a massive football club. Obviously, we're not as big as your Uniteds and your Real Madrids in terms of history, but in England, we're huge. In Europe, we're still a huge pool. So naturally, players are going to be interested in Arsenal anyway. But then when you look at this young team and going from 8th to challenging this season, all right, we didn't win it, we fell off at the end. But honestly, some of the football we played last season, like it was some of the best football I've seen ever from an Arsenal team. And I remember watching the Invincibles play, and obviously there's a complete different style of team. But when I was watching Arsenal last season, there was times like I remember Chelsea away last year. I've never seen Arsenal go to Stamford Bridge, and Chelsea. I know Chelsea aren't the team they was last season, but we could have played them for about 10 hours and they wouldn't have scored. That's how good we look. And I think that players, when Arteta talks to them now, he hasn't just got that clout of being Arsenal manager and Pep's assistant. Like he's got that to go back off last season. You look at how my team played last year. The players are going to be another year older, and we want to add you to that, and you're the missing piece. And it's hard when someone's selling that to you. It's not like we're a mid-table club. We're Arsenal Football Club, and when the manager's telling you that from Arsenal Football Club, you think, yeah, I want that. At Arsenal, the atmosphere has been brilliant last season. Players thrive off that. Like we was probably up there with Newcastle for the best atmospheres in the league last season. I mean, you go to City, their fans they don't even cheer a goal. So you come to Arsenal, you're in London, you've got all them, the crowd singing, you've got all the young.
We're cheering own goals.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, but that's what I mean. I mean, Arteta's got so much to sell as well as himself that I feel like if any player can listen to him and buy into what he's saying. It's just whether that lasts for a long time until Arsenal get the deal over the line, if that makes sense. But I thought that he could sell Arsenal to anyone and they would come away from that conversation, if not wanting to go, considering it. And I mean, that's anyone in world football.
And I think now it's just up to the club to back it.
Yeah, exactly.
Jerome, you watched the Amazon documentary. Do you see things there that potentially resonate with players once he's had a phone call from Mikel Arteta? What do you think it is?
Well, for example, you had one of the clips, you had some of the players talking about Arteta. And Granit Xhaka said that he's like a tactical freak. And this is a guy that's like, you know, he's not fresh on the scene, Xhaka. He's, you know, nearing towards the end of his career. He's had a few different managers, and him calling him that, saying that he sees things that like no one else sees. Like that's a bit special. He's obviously a very intelligent, interesting guy, and even when he gives press conferences and you hear him speak, he doesn't give like the bog standard normal replies. Like he says things that are very interesting, and you can tell he's a serious guy. Like he's not here for a joke or for for the money. He's like serious about getting his business done. And as I said before, very ambitious. And it's a bit like when Wenger first came. If we had a game on TV, after the game, I want to hear what he had to say after the game. When it was Emery, obviously didn't care, had no interest. And now with Arteta, if he speaks after the game to the cameras, to the whoever it is, Jeff Shreves or whoever, like you want to hear what he's got to say. You're interested in it. I think he's quite captivating in that way. And for players to speak to someone that's so like bright and intelligent, and he's obviously got specific plans for every player that works underneath him. Like, and if you're a player, that's probably exactly what you want to hear. So yeah, amazing what he's done, and hopefully these chats that he has with players, hopefully they do go a long way to helping players decide where they want to play, especially players like Rice.
Yeah. You make me well up here, Jerome, I'll tell you.
Melvin, before we move on to our last topic, which is on Emile Smith Rowe, what do you think resonates with the players when they're getting these phone calls? Because it seems like whenever Mikel Arteta, if you listen to transfer news from the player, Jurriën Timber sounds like he's very, very excited about the project. We've seen Kai Havertz facing that, the Chelsea picture. He definitely weren't smiling. And even Declan Rice, you're hearing that his preference is Arsenal, and it's got to be more than just the location. What do you think it is with Mikel Arteta when he gives you a phone call that resonates with the players?
I think that he's fresh. I think he's only recently given up playing football, so they know that he's not back from the 1920s football. You know, he's up to date. I think he has got a fantastic personality, and he's the type of guy that could actually talk you into believing water's not wet. But after a certain amount of time, the confidence the players will show in him has got to be justified both ways. So it's not as easy as that. But if he can just get something over the line, a couple of players over the line, which I think he has done, that may or may not have come through any other manager we have, then it's a very, very good thing for the club. And they listen. He's, as I say, the personality is very good. His enthusiasm is very good, and he knows what he's talking about. Even if you think, well, I'm not sure about this guy, but I'll speak to him. Look who he's been working with. They know, some of the stuff must have rubbed off of him. You must think. So let's give him a chance. Once they do speak to him, I think, well, actually, he does know what he's talking about. So I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he's saying the right things to get the players, but it's up to the board to get those deals over the line. And the last topic of the day, Emile Smith Rowe's got back-to-back goals in the European Under-21s Championship. Jerome, I'm going to start with you, since you're a massive Smith Rowe fan. Do you think Smith Rowe is a player who's maybe a forgotten gem at Arsenal and could be a little bit of a surprise package with a full pre-season under his belt after a torrid time with some injuries? Yeah,
you'd like to think so. One of the big sort of question marks about Smith Rowe is where's he going to play? I think when he's played his best for us is when he's basically played in Martinelli's position on the left. But with, since then, the style of play has changed with Zinchenko at left back. So it's going to be really interesting to see where he fits into this team. Because I'm not if he sticks to this same formation, I'm not too sure where he's going to play. But for me, I like him on the left when he can then sort of drift in midfield, drift inside. But he is properly the forgotten man, isn't he?
Yeah.
Smith Rowe.
Steve, Smith Rowe, does it feel like he's a bit of a forgotten man? Do you think he could have his say in get into the team next season and make a difference with a full pre-season under his belt?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying about forgotten man, just because he hasn't been there for a long while. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait until he comes back. Just like Jerome, I'm a massive fan of Emile Smith Rowe. You mentioned the 2 goals that he scored, in the competition, under 21s, is it, or under 23s, whatever it was. Two quality goals that we're used to seeing at the quite often with Emile Smith Rowe. Great runs. Second goal that he scored was a typical Emile Smith Rowe goal that we've seen many times. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait for his impact. I mean, he will feel like a new signing, won't he, next season? I mean, there's no doubt about that. And the type of impact that he could make, I feel, could be something on the lines of similar to what we've seen to, William Saliba. He came in and absolutely, took the Premier League apart. And I think Emile Smith Rowe, he's someone who can do that. He's got the ability to do that. He's got everything. We've seen it before from Emile Smith Rowe. And if we can get an Emile Smith Rowe back to full fitness, which it looks like he is, I mean, what an asset, for the rest of the season. I never knew all this talk about, letting him go, or even Arsenal fans saying that we should let him go. I find that absolutely spellbinding. Where people would get that from. He's going to be an absolutely massive part of whatever we do next season, and hopefully similar to Kieran Tierney, because obviously I hope he stays as well. Two really important members of the squad who I think are going to get plenty of game time next season, because I think next season with Mikel Arteta, I think it's all going to be about rotation. I think this is what we're going to see next season. I think you're going to see Havertz in for Jesus, Havertz probably maybe in for Saka, Smith Rowe maybe coming in for Odie. I think you're going to see a lot of that. It's what Pep does, it's what City does, and I'm sure that's what's going to be on Mikel Arteta's mind. So I do think we're going to see a lot of Emile Smith Rowe next season, and yeah, I can't wait, because on his day he's a very, very special player.
Yeah, I agree. Melvin, the reason why I say forgotten man is because he was out until about Christmas. I genuinely think he just wasn't match fit to play to his levels, or what Arteta was levels for a team that is looking to win the Premier League or push for the Premier League. And then there's a lot of talk about people saying we should just sell him cash in now. So that's why I say forgotten man. But do you think he can make an impact next season if he gets a full preseason under his belt? And if so, where do you think he would play? Where do you think his best position would be?
He's one of my favourite players, Smith Rowe. He's the type of player you want to watch when you go, either when we're playing at home at the Emirates, or you go away from, watch something on a box away from home. He's a fantastic player. He could become. He's a very similar type of style, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's as good as him. De Bruyne, that type of player who flits around, is the catalyst between the midfield and the attack. He can score goals as well, like we saw this season before last. I just think he's terrific. And to say where he's going to play, I think he's one of those players that you just put a number on his back and say, go out there, see what you can do. I think what you will see with Smith Rowe, and then a couple of other players that you mentioned, Steve, there'll be a lot more players this season playing not the last 10 minutes or the last 2 minutes, 45 minutes. We will play, I reckon, a lot of players 45 minutes, and we'll make changes because the manager might have the confidence to say, you know what, we're doing all right. We can take off him and put him on, and we haven't lowered the team at all. We haven't put the level down. So I think that's where he applied. I don't think, though he plays on the left like same position as Martinelli, he's not a Martinelli type player because he cuts inside much more. But that's where his best position might be. But he could play on the right as well. I do really, really rate him. It was so disappointing last season. First of all, hearing that we might sell him. Obviously, we weren't happy that he was injured. Then when he's come back, we might sell him. Then hear rumours about, he's not training properly. But the worst thing for me last season, and it's a bit negative, was when he never got, even though he wasn't 100% fit. So the manager knows better than us with fitness. I mean, when you had the likes of Vieira getting a quarter of an hour or a start instead of him, I was worried then that perhaps this guy is going to be shown the door. But thankfully that hasn't happened. I don't want it to happen, because I think he can be a real boon for us in certain games. He may not start every game because, like Jerome says, what's his best position and where would you don't know. But I'm sure that there's a reason why hopefully we're going to keep him, because I think he's got it all. I really do.
I agree. I see him as a cultured winger, similar to like a Paul Merson down the wing.
That's a good point.
Very good pass. He's got tricks in his game, and he can score a goal. That's who I see him. But even if he could go, exactly what I was just about to say. Perez like to slow the game down, then take it at his own pace. Very, very clever sorts of players. And if you look at testimonies from other players, who's the most skillful, who's the most creative player, they'll tell you Emile Smith Rowe, and that's an asset we can't afford to lose. I always say when it comes to Hale End, you give them that extra year, give them that extra opportunity, because they've got the DNA running through the team, and that kind of resonates a lot more with me when it comes to bringing in players. You need those sorts of players around the squad as well. So yeah, Emile Smith Rowe, I fully see him having a say in next season and potentially even helping us over the line in certain games. Let me quickly go through some of the questions here and some of the statements here. I'm just going to go one each. I'm not going to go around like I normally do to everyone to answer the same question. So we'll just go to one person. With the right backing from the owners, Arteta has the potential to go and achieve greatness with this team. Getting Rice would be a game changer. It's vital it gets done. Steve, what's your thoughts on that one? Vital gets done just quickly. Rice needs to get done. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Rice is massively important. We need to get this done ASAP. We need to make sure that this next bid is the only bid. We've got to make sure that it's accepted, and we got to get it over the line. It's massively important. We want to leave Manchester City in a situation where we leave it where they can't make another bid. Manchester City have got a line. They never cross that line. They have a bar. We've seen it in other transfer windows. They get to a point that they pull out. Harry Kane, when it got a little bit too much, they just said no. Cucurella, it got too much, say no. Declan Rice will be the same. If we can go in with the 100 million and we can just get this done, ideal.
All right. Thank you for that question, Sam. Jerome, Liam says, I guess we have to give credit to West Ham. They're trying to get as much money as they can, but surely the longer it dominates the media, the more it affects pre-season. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, of course. Not only that, but they were interested in Paulinho from Fulham, and obviously Fulham, they've got an inkling of what West Ham are going to get for Rice, so they've quoted 90 million. He's never a £90 million player. So, look, of course, they're well within their rights to get as much as they can, and every club would do the same, especially with the two fighting for the signature. But yeah, I'm sure they want to get. Look, it's just delaying the inevitable, isn't it? So hopefully it gets done soon.
Yeah, I must be worth 25 keys now after seeing that 90 million for Paulinho.
I don't know. This statement's gem. We could put an extra few pounds together and went for Kane over Havertz. Melvin, do you want to tell Boyce 88?
No. I mean, if we had a player like Kane to buy, if a player like Kane was up, obviously he's a fantastic centre forward, and he might make the difference between us. Might be one of those players, but it'll stick in the throat, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah, we already took Sol
Campbell.
Campbell.
It's not the same as Campbell. No, I don't think it's the same as Sol Campbell for some reason. No. I mean, I mean, he's a fantastic player. Let's face it. It hurts me to say, but it's true. He's a fantastic player. But I think that what's he come up to 30 now?
Yeah.
He doesn't fit the profile. It fits the profile as far as scoring goes, but he doesn't fit the profile as our squad goes. But
No.
I wouldn't. No, if we can listen, if it meant us winning the league, buying him or not, obviously I'd say yeah, let's go for it. But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say is, look, Kai Havertz is an Arsenal player now, so we need to get over this. Chelsea is a Chelsea ex-player, which I just don't just move on from that. Or talk of he didn't do it at Chelsea. Like, Chelsea is not the club for Kai Havertz. Please. He had Lampard as his manager twice and Graham Potter in the 3 years that he was there. In the one season that he had Thomas Tuchel, I think he had 20 goal contributions in 46 games. That tells you that there was the progression. That season was progression. The season after that, he had Graham Potter and Lampard again. And I think we have to look at that. We can't keep looking at Kai Havertz and thinking, this player's, why are we spending this much money? Why are we spending that much money? We're bringing in a player who's going to up the level of our squad. We're bringing in a versatile player who 3 seasons ago, every single club was looking at, every single club wanted. Give him a chance. Forget about the Chelsea nonsense. And remember, he's in an Arsenal kit now. So he's Arsenal.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think they'll do with him, kids? Just before you go, I'm just interested. What do you think we're going to do with him? What's in Arteta's mind?
Honestly, I think he's an option for the right wing for Saka, competition, rotation. I wouldn't even write him off playing in some games. I know Jerome writ it off last week. I would not write off him playing in that Xhaka position in certain games. Because if you look at his defensive side of things, I feel like Mikel Arteta has looked at his ball recovery, his defensive play, and seen that this player can play everywhere in the top half. Not a 6, but anywhere from the 8 to 10 to the either wing and up front. And you've got a player in the squad who's this technically gifted, who has got a very high bar, but is only here. I think we've got an absolute gem on our hands, and I think he's gonna show people. He's going to put people in their place. He's going to show a lot of Chelsea fans who have done montages of his mistakes, bad passes, which is embarrassing. The fact that he's a player that was still at your club and you're doing montages of his mistakes shows you that he was never meant to be at your club, and he's good riddance that he's left you, because we ain't going to do that at Arsenal. This is a different Arsenal fan base. We're fully supportive, and Kai Havertz will be smiling all day long that he joined us. All right, quickly one for you, so I just couldn't shoot. Kai Havertz is going to be a dream for Arsenal, I guess you're saying, especially with Martin next to him in midfield. We have got Kai Havertz of Bayer Leverkusen, and I think you've got to look at that. Russ, thank you for joining us, but that's time. We had, I think, about 150 at one point in the watching the stream. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined us. Make sure you press that like and subscribe button, because I know there's some new people. The subscribe button is free. Yeah, nothing comes out your bank account. You just press it, and just forget. Do you know what I mean? It's that easy. So I want to see a minimum of 80 people pressing that subscribe button now. So we will see you next week. Yeah.
If you press it, Arsenal are going to win the title. If you press it now, and we will win it. I'm telling you now. I've got this sixth sense. You have to press it.
You know, like when everyone was rubbing. I'm going to about to say I look sound an old man. When everyone was rubbing the paper of David Beckham's metatarso, yeah, where to get him to pray for him to get better. This is that. Press the subscribe button, and we will win the league.
Yeah.
No refunds accepted.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for everyone who's joined us tonight. Absolutely buzzing in the comment section. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for joining us, Con. Internet issues, don't worry. We'll get you back again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, Steve, Jerome, and Melvin. Top quality show today.
Cheers.
Thanks again. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant.
Make sure you join us. We're back on Monday nights. We're going to be doing the transfer exchange show special, where we're going to be bringing you some of the top transfer experts out there. We've got Steve. We're going to be getting on Ben Jacobs. We're going to be getting on all the people out there that you listen to on Twitter. They're coming on our show. Make sure you join us. And we're going to be bringing on a fan as well, of course. It would only be fair to get a fan on to ask those questions as well. Make sure you join us every Tuesday at 8 o'clock for the best Arsenal show on YouTube. I'm biased, of course. Please press that like and subscribe, people. Peace out. Stay safe and wash your hands.